The country he put tariffs on, the country whose leader he called governor 2 days ago, the country he told the world was nothing without America. That country just became the most important energy supplier on Earth, and he cannot access it. Not because someone blocked him, not because a foreign government said no, because of a piece of paper he signed himself. And he still does not realize what he did. Watch what happens when you see it. 2 years ago, Donald Trump announced 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. He stood at a podium and said, "Canada lives because of the United States." Mark Carney responded the same day with a video. He said, "Canada does not live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian." Most people treated that as political theater, a spat between neighbors, something that would blow over. But underneath that exchange, something very specific happened that almost nobody noticed. Canada supplies more crude oil to the United States than any other country on the planet. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Mexico, more than Iraq. 50% of all aluminum imports, 20% of all steel, and the single largest flow of crude oil into American refineries every single day of the year. When Trump signed those tariffs, he did not punish Ottawa. He placed a 25% tax on American refineries, on American factories, on the American family standing at the gas pump, wondering why everything keeps getting more expensive. At the time, that seemed like a bad decision. Today, it looks like something far worse. Because last week, the Strait of Hormuz went dark. That is the narrow corridor of water between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. 20% of the world's oil passes through it every single day. Ships carrying crude to Japan, South Korea, India, Europe, all of it moves through that corridor. Last week, after the United States and Israel launched military operations against Iran, that corridor shut down. Tanker traffic dropped to practically zero for the first time in 80 years. Insurance companies pulled coverage overnight. Ships sat still in the water with nowhere to go. And oil hit $120 a barrel, the highest price in 4 years. If you filled your tank this week in British Columbia, you already know. $1.73 per liter. In Newfoundland, $1.67. In Ontario, $1.54. And every single one of those numbers is higher than it was yesterday. Now look at what just happened. Step back and look at it. The man who put a 25% tariff on the largest oil supply to the United States just backed a military operation that shut down the second largest oil supply route on the planet. He walled off Canada. Then he shut down Hormuz. And now $120 oil is sitting on the chest of every family on this continent. In every previous oil crisis, 2008, 2022, there was an obvious solution. Release reserves, call the Saudis, open the taps. This time, the most obvious solution on earth is sitting right across the Canadian border, and the American president cannot access it at a competitive price because of his own tariffs. But here is where the story turns. On Tuesday, the International Energy Agency held an emergency session and announced the largest coordinated oil release in the history of the organization. 400 million barrels, not 200 like the Ukraine crisis in 2022. 400. The biggest emergency action in 50 years. And they called Canada to help lead it, not to contribute at the margins, not to send a statement of support, to help lead it. Canada's Natural Resources Minister said Canada will do its part. Bloomberg reported that Ottawa is urgently exploring options to boost output immediately. The Trans Mountain Pipeline is already moving Canadian crude to the Pacific coast, and new contracts are being finalized this week with buyers across Asia and Europe who need oil now and cannot wait for the Strait of Hormuz to reopen. Think about where we are. The country Donald Trump called worthless is the country the world just asked to help stabilize the global economy. The prime minister he called governor 48 hours ago is the leader 14 countries are calling for help. The oil he taxed, the oil he mocked, the oil he said America did not need is trading at $120 a barrel, and every country on earth wants it. And here's the part that should make every Canadian sit up straight. This is not just happening because of one emergency. This has been building for 6 months. After Trump signed those tariffs, Mark Carney went to Davos and told the world the old arrangement with America was broken. He used one word that made headlines everywhere: rupture. Then he stopped talking and started building. 12 new trade deals, 4 continents, 6 months. He told Trump that number directly on a phone call. Carney said publicly that Trump's response was that he was impressed. Even the man who called Canada worthless could not deny what Canada built while he was looking the other way. India is buying Canadian energy today. Japan signed trade and defense agreements with Ottawa last week. The European Union is locking in critical mineral supply chains with Canadian producers. Australia is building resource and defense partnerships that did not exist 2 years ago. And none of these are handshakes. They are binding contracts, 5-year terms, 10-year terms, delivery schedules, and penalty clauses. The oil that used to flow south to American refineries in Texas and the Midwest is being contractually committed to new buyers at prices America will not match. Every month those tariffs stay in place, another contract gets signed with someone who is not the United States. Every month the window gets smaller. And now with oil at $120, those contracts are worth more than they have ever been worth. If you buy groceries this month, you will feel that. Every truck that delivers food to your store runs on diesel that just got 30% more expensive in 7 days. If you heat your home, natural gas follows oil. When oil sits at 120, your heating bill moves with it. If you have retirement savings, you have already felt it. Markets dropped 9% from their peak in 3 weeks. $4 trillion gone since February. All of it traceable to 2 decisions: tariffs on Canadian oil and a military operation that closed the world's most important shipping lane. Both of them signed by the same hand. If this is putting together a picture you have not seen assembled anywhere else, subscribe now. This channel covers what Canada does next, not what the headlines say, what actually happens. You want to be here when the next chapter lands. When oil crosses $120 and the world starts shaking, there is one asset that has held its value through every crisis for 5,000 years. Gold just hit a record high this month. That is not a coincidence. Drop your province or your state and the price you paid per liter at the pump this week in the comments below. I want to see what this crisis is actually costing real people from coast to coast. And if this video is giving you the full picture, the news is not assembling hit hype. It pushes this onto the country leaderboard, and it only works for 7 days. Every single one counts. Here is where I leave you. 2 days ago, the President of the United States typed 9 words about the Prime Minister of Canada. He called him governor. He said it while oil sat at $120 a barrel, while the International Energy Agency was preparing the largest emergency response in its history, while 14 countries were picking up the phone and calling Ottawa. He typed governor. And that single word tells you everything you need to know about why America is on the outside of this looking in. Not because Canada is punishing them, not because the world turned against Washington, because the man in the Oval Office looked at the country that sits on the 3rd largest oil reserves on the planet, the country the entire world just asked for help, the country whose energy could bring prices back down tomorrow, and he called it a department that answers to him. Canadian oil is worth more than gold today. And the man who said it was worthless cannot get it. Not because Canada said no, because his own signature is in the way. If you want the first chapter of how this started, watch this video right here. Together, they give you the complete picture no one else is putting together. Subscribe. This is not finished.